This is Hayflick's 6-hour class, aka Mr. Swanson's. Today we'll be assessing and analyzing the historical documents and views of people from the United Kingdom and Japan to determine whether their war between each other was racist, and also by comparing both of their relationships with Nazi Germany. So let's get started. By the end of the Great Depression, tensions between the European countries had enhanced. As the Second World War progressed, Japan saw a chance to strengthen its empire and resources, starting in China. Now, in war with the Allied powers, Japan would find itself caught in a fight of races. These two countries would show racial aspects and cruelty through past encounters, published propaganda, and war efforts from both sides. The first thing to analyze is how the United Kingdom and Japanese past relations would have influenced this race-driven war. Before World War II, Japan was receiving most of its raw materials from the United States and the United Kingdom, and receiving their goods from other countries that made them dependent upon other powers in the world, and not allowing them to be the self-atoned country they pleased to be. So as a result, Japan set eyes on the riches in China. And actually invading China, this would cause more problems for Japan between China and the United Kingdom and the United States and all the allied countries, causing bigger conflict. Around that same time, Japan sought to join the Axis powers with Germany and Italy. This act would strengthen the defense behind their cause and making them a greater power to rule over Asia. With Axis radical views, Japan would make Asia pure, as the countries fighting in Axis had the same interest. This quote from Robert H. Jackson: "The Nazi plans of aggression called for Asiatic allies, and they found among the Japanese men kind of kindred mind and purpose. They were brothers under the skin." This quote is illustrating the similarity in beliefs, making the two parties a good match, showing that the Japanese soldiers had young minds and didn't really think things through, giving them both the same radical views. Next, you will see how propaganda and war news influence certain beliefs of racism and the purpose behind them. Propaganda is defined as ideas, facts, or allegations spread deliberately to further one's cause or damage an opposing cause. Merriam-Webster Dictionary. The use of propaganda by either side would shape the civilian and military views. Japanese propaganda was driven by hatred of the Allied forces. Japanese posters, such as these, revealed dominance over other races by showing the world nationalities dead under their feet, and etc. More violent United Kingdom posters such as these show Japanese soldiers killing their wives and being overly cruel. This poster was most likely created to shape the civilian beliefs, to show them who the actual enemy was, and why they were fighting. The use of radio propaganda in Japan was aimed at the Allied forces and families, trying to diminish the soldiers' worth. Broadcasts such as Axis Sally and Tokyo Rose were very effective in this propaganda. Next, we will analyze how racism in different cultures changed warfare between the two countries in this war. The development of new and worsening weapons, such as kamikazes, showed rage and hatred toward their opponent, increasing the need to kill on both sides, as hatred is shown through the words of those who actually lived it, the student soldiers. Young men like Oroku Adiachi had their feelings expressed through their diaries, most likely collected in Amiku Anuki Tierney's book of these diaries. This shows the responsibility young men had put on them by the military hatred for the Allied forces. Some were remorseful and sad, but most had the same hatred that the military had. An Allied weapon that changed the ways of the wars and showed one of complete domination was planes, bombs, and the burning of total cities, such as Tokyo and many more in Japan. This map shows all the bombed areas in Japan during World War II. As more and more cities were being bombed, it showed more and more aggression towards the Japanese side of the war. Along with soldier deaths and fire deaths, the massacre of civilians in and out of battle shows the cruelty, especially in Japanese soldiers, to other Asian civilians, such as the Nanking Massacre, where hundreds of people died in China. Lastly, the most racist aspect of the warfare would be the neglect of soldier prisoners. Specifically in Japan, the prisoners were thought of as weak white men who surrendered to their enemy. The treatment of people who were held captive in these prison camps showed the hatred of each side for one another. They were starved and beaten and most likely died. As most Axis prisoners would have been taken to Russia, the treatment in that country was no better. Here are a few pictures of Allied prisoners in Japan. These are pictures of Axis prisoners in Russia and other prison camps. The war effort, propaganda, and past relations between the United Kingdom and Japan The evidence of a race-driven war is revealed. As Japan was seeking a greater empire, they created their own conflicts with the United Kingdom, joining the Axis powers and invading their neighboring country, China. After joining into the Second World War, propaganda posters showed the views that the radical Japanese and radical United Kingdomers had about the two different men they were at war with. The propaganda also consists of radio casts such as Tokyo Rose, and this type of propaganda was fueled by hatred and very progressive. Along with enhanced rivalries towards the British, towards both sides, the war efforts from both sides show a true one of annihilation and dominance over one another. The extreme action shown through the kamikaze soldiers, upgraded planes, and bombs to just death tolls is evidence enough to show the racist or prejudiced view of dominance over one another, and what some would call the war against races. Either way, a racial aspect of fighting is shown through the United Kingdom to Japan or vice versa, and this is supported by the study of those decisions and words during war.